Hello and welcome to the WeChat Tech podcast. Today I am joined by Esmira Bayramova. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome, Esmira.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks for having me today. It's
No,
an
no
absolute
worries at
pleasure.
all. So I guess first things first, we ask our guests sort of to give themselves an introduction, Esmira, to themselves, where they grew up, how it all began. So yeah, who is Esmira?
Uh, well, uh, Esmira is a DevRel now, but this is my very first role as a DevRel. I come from 8+ years of DevOps, SRE, cloud engineering background. And yeah, well, as I said, right now I work as a developer relations advocate. Um, what else would you like to know about Esmira?
I think where you were born, where you grew up, obviously your journey into the US, very intriguing as well for the audience potentially. So I guess that element of your life, university, do those speak about introduction wise?
Sure. So I come from a very, very international background. I was born in Eastern Europe. I was born in Georgia. Then we moved around Eastern Europe to a couple countries. I grew up mostly in Azerbaijan. Then I did a couple years of university in the UK, as you already know. Um, And that coming from a very diverse background made me who I am today. I learned how to adapt to things very quickly. One of my superpowers is I know 6 languages. And when I say
Wow.
6 languages, I'm not talking about Python, Ruby, Go. I'm talking about like human languages. Um, so it's actually surprising when I go to conferences and I meet different groups of developers. Sometimes I start speaking at their own language, and that surprises them.
Wow.
Um, well, yeah, and I did bachelor's in GIS engineering. Then I did MBA. Then another 2 years in Cambridge, also something focused on geographic information systems. I guess that was one of the main reasons why. Um, a lot of like space and defense companies wanted me higher in my early career. So yes, that's
Nice. Fantastic. And out of those 6 languages, can you sort of give us which ones you speak?
of course. So because I was born in Georgia and the times I was born, it was like still post-Soviet times. I do speak Russian. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to learn Georgian, but I grew up in Azerbaijan, so I ended up learning Azerbaijani and Turkish during the
Oh,
time I
wow.
lived there. And then once I spoke, let's say, very good English, I was thinking, what would be another language I would love to learn? And German came up to my mind because living in Eastern Europe, there were a lot of opportunities for. Also, it's easier path from English because they come from the same roots. But if I would be in my current mindset, I would honestly learn Spanish. Back then, all the time I spent for learning time and energy for learning German, I would invest it into Spanish because right now I live in Miami. And as you know, there's the
Heavy
biggest,
Spanish influence. Massive, isn't
yes,
it?
very exactly the biggest Hispanic community, I would say. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm forgetting German because I don't use it day to day. But then, yeah, English and plus, I've learned some Spanish and I continue learning it every day just
Wow.
because of the, the
The
nature of
nature
the
of where you
content.
live. Yeah, yeah. I think it's
Exactly.
very impressive for anyone to speak. I always say 2 languages is a feat in itself because I only speak 1 language at the moment. But to speak 6 different languages, that must have taken you years of hard work and commitment to doing that. I think if you live in a certain place, you can pick it up a bit quicker, generally speaking, but it's still not easy to pick it up, I don't think.
I agree. I think after second and third, your brain kind of gets adapted to that mindset of learning languages after you're bilingual. After third one, everything else comes very easily. One thing I love doing is I love literature in general, and I love reading literature. from the origin language. For example, I love reading Dostoevsky in Russian, or like Rumi sometimes in Turkish. So that helped a lot too.
Wow.
Uh, and as I said, yeah, after second, third language, it gets fairly easier.
Fair enough. I'm sort of trying to learn Spanish, Esmira, myself at the moment because I went to New York year before last, and there's obviously a big Hispanic community in New York as well, as you probably know. It's quite a, I think almost half of New York speak Spanish. I think that's a rough stat. Um, and one day I'd like to live in New York. That's my sort of goal at some point. So I've learned a bit. I can say like mi cumpleaños es el 21 de septiembre, my birthday. But that's
Very good.
about it. I'm trying, so we'll get there. Give me a few years and I'll get there. But I guess in terms of your journey, Esmira, it's been quite unique. Obviously, not just the fact you've come from Eastern Europe and gone all the way to the States now, and you're living in Miami. But your technical journey is a lot different to most as well. So most people come from like typically university background as you did, but normally in like a computer science type degree, shall we say? And then they go into like a sysadmin or infrastructure or software engineering type position before going into DevOps. You did a very different path with the GIS aerospace type work you were doing. What sort of what work within that space translated well into your work now as a DevOps engineering leader and DevRel person, I suppose?
Sure. When it comes to my journey in tech, well, actually, earlier in my career, I started working at one of the data centers here in Miami. I worked with actual physical servers, and that was a very good base that gave me that knowledge of, kernel level, like how things are built and how things shifted into cloud. And I used to do more of like Linux administration, like administrating all these Linux systems. From there, in early 2010, I've noticed how things are quickly moving into cloud. Even us as a data center, we started losing some of our customers to cloud, to AWS. And I realized very quickly, well, of course, emerging technologies, you know, it's a big thing. Like, in our days, especially, the technology emerges with the speed of light. Back then, it was the same. And I quickly noticed cloud is becoming very popular. Everything is moving to cloud. My first journey with cloud was I started exploring AWS because back then, and I guess now too, it's the most popular cloud. And I started getting a couple certifications with it, just exploring on my own. And that's how I shifted working at the space companies as a DevOps cloud SRE engineer.
So does that mean you're like DV cleared in terms of the highest clearance possible because you're working for like those type of companies? Is that how it works in the US?
Um, yeah, yes, it does. However, not. I mean, not every DevOps engineer has to have that clearance. Sometimes companies have ways of, doing different kinds of, I guess, contracts in terms of, well, some jobs did require clearance, some did not. So, depending on what kind of systems you're working with.
Nice. I suppose different levels of clearance, right, for different types of roles and areas you're working within, which is fair enough. So I guess, Asmira, the question for people would be from the audience might be, you're now doing DevRel, right? And DevRel is a different ball game to maybe being purely hands-on in terms of working in a DevOps team, I guess. So how does a DevRel type role differ to a DevOps engineer type role?
Um, well, it's actually also working mostly with my peers, with people who are in DevOps, as I said, SRE, cloud engineering. But it's more of like being a bridge between them. And currently, I'm with Cast AI, like the tool and the company. Uh, so it is still working with same level of engineers, my peers. However, uh, listening to them. understanding their pain points, bringing it back to my company, my product team, my engineering team, and mostly like helping them to solve these problems. So it works really, really well. I cannot imagine actually DevRel people like not coming from that background because you are not a salesperson, you're not a marketing person, but you are peer to these people. You speak the same language. When they speak and vocalize their pain points, you actually understand because you have been there.
Yeah. So it's like it's a really important role, actually, I think. In a lot of like tooling, DevOps tooling companies now, you're seeing a lot more DevRel positions, or they call it developer advocates in some companies, or head of developer relations as well. So different roles, titles, similar to like how there's DevOps, cloud engineers, SREs, platform engineers in the more purely technical type role. In DevRel, there's like a few buzzwords happening as well, from what we're seeing as well. Um, so I guess, are you still an engineer at heart? Are you still actually providing engineering type work as well as being that link?
Yes, I love building, so I heavily get involved with the engineering teams across my company. We work very closely together. I will attend their meetings, help building stuff, and I do, but not, of course, to the extent I used to be when I was leading DevOps teams and when I was hands-on DevOps myself.
Nice. So a bit about Cast AI then, Esmira. Obviously, you've been there for a little while now. So what does Cast AI do, and I guess what does their tool offer?
Cast AI is a cloud optimization tool, and I actually have an interesting journey. I come from customer side. Um, to explain it better to you, I used to lead a team of DevOps engineers at one of my previous space companies, and one day I get called by our higher leadership with a request telling me that the overall cost of DevOps team is too high now, and also cloud cost is out of control. And they put this very hard task in front of me. I had to either um, cut the cloud cost or like let at least two of my engineers go. And back then we were pretty short on headcount, actually. Like I could have never let the engineers go, but that was the requirement from higher leadership. So um, at one of these big conferences, I see this tool that says, we cut your cloud cost by 35%. And I'm like, that is not possible. It was like 5 years ago, probably. Like, that is not possible. For me, it was very hard to move on with that project because we were short on headcount anyways. Putting my engineers hands on to cut that cloud cost would create another toil for us. So I'm like, let me go talk to these guys. How's that even possible? So we speak at the conference, and then I bring it back to my company. I discuss it with my higher leadership. Everyone likes the idea and the tool and the pricing, everything. So I myself onboarded Cast into multiple Kubernetes clusters, and within just right after onboarding, within a month, we saw our cloud cost went down about 40%. And of course, everyone was super happy at the company. And at all hands meeting, I get a lot of kudos. So long story short, like that's what CAS does. It pretty much decreases your cloud cost if you're using Kubernetes. And also recently, we're doing a lot of work. As you know, AI is evolving big time. We do GPU cost savings, also database optimization. Um, since I used CAS, now after I joined, there are so many new features that the engineering team came up with, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah,
So I
that's
think that
much what
the one
CAS
thing
does.
that yeah, I think the one thing that you've mentioned there was you met Cast at a conference, Esmira, correct? So What is the
That's
value
right.
of conferences, and also which conference was that? Was that KubeCon or similar?
It was a KubeCon back, I believe it was 2022 probably, or 21. Yes, one of the KubeCons in North America.
Wow. I have actually, you know what? I've actually never been to a KubeCon Esmira. I've never been to one, which I'm really ashamed to say. In the space that I work in, I need to get myself there. But different commitments is hard. I travel quite a lot, so it's quite hard to like commit some dates, as you probably know for yourself as well. Be quite
Hmm.
challenging with the
I think,
diaries and stuff.
sure, you should definitely look into attending the Amsterdam one that is coming up this March. And I know you applied for talk as well. Hopefully
I
that
did.
gets accepted. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
There
I
are a
think
lot of ways actually attending these conferences, and we can talk about it offline. But yeah, you should
yes.
definitely, because it's all like the whole community of DevOps is SRE and like cloud native. Imagine 20, 30,000 people, engineers and industry leaders coming together at these conferences.
Have you been to Excel London? Excel for like the AWS Summit and stuff in London or not before?
I have not, no.
I was asking because of how I'm not sure how scalable in terms of the comparison between what you're used to with KubeCon and then that venue. Because I've been to Excel a couple of times and it's quite a big place, but I can imagine KubeCon's held in a massive like warehouse sort of thing. Is that how it normally works?
Oh, it is. Yes. It's usually held in huge conference halls, and that's why they specifically choose these cities where they can actually um, afford to have 20, 30,000 people. The city can actually handle that many
Yes.
engineers. So this year, the Europe one is going to be in Amsterdam, and I believe North America is going to be in Salt Lake City.
Oh wow. Okay. So that Salt Lake City is quite near Seattle and Las is it in between Seattle and Las Vegas? Or am I getting that completely wrong?
No, no, it's in Utah. Yeah, well, it is. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Seattle is
Okay.
very west. It's more of like closer to Vegas, I would say.
Yeah. I have the picture in my head of the map, and I sort of know roughly where it is, but I keep forgetting how big America is and how wide the land mass is, so it's probably nowhere near any of those places.
Yes.
I guess it's funny because a lot of companies that I speak with, Asmira, as well, from a work standpoint, they go to like they have stands at these events and these conferences, and they don't get much out of it. So with Cast AI, I think what caught your eye with them, and what would catch for any other company that's looking to have a stand in a big conference? What are your recommendations from like uh, a company standpoint where they're looking to sell their products?
Honestly, because I'm not part of marketing or sales teams, it's not very easy for me to answer this question. But I can tell from DevRel perspective that if you bring value to the community, for example, at the very latest KubeCon in North America in Atlanta, my team ran a book signing with Kelsey Hightower. He is one of the biggest names in
Very
Kubernetes.
famous.
Yes, so I ran the initiative with Kunal for the community to like, we brought Kelsey Hightower into our booth, and he signed over 300-400 books.
Wow.
And you should see the lines, like people lined up, hundreds of people to just meet Kelsey and talk. But for the companies, in terms of like, should they, is the question, should they like get a booth at these conferences and what value it brings? I
Yeah.
I believe like lead generation, it should be great if a company is looking, to have a pool of ICPs where who they can reach out from like sales and marketing standpoint. Of course, I think it's worth, and also for visibility. See, I myself as a uh, engineer earlier in my career, so I saw this tool at a conference, and I spoke to the team and I onboarded it. So those engineers come to these conferences with the purpose of learning the most updated news of the industry, seeing who brought what to the table, what is their latest product, what is everyone doing in the world of emerging technologies, like um, which company is developing what, and how it can help them solve their day-to-day pain, their day-to-day problems. As you know, being an engineer is not easy, especially if you come, if we're talking about DevOps and SRE engineers, it's like waking up in the middle of the night with different signals and fighting with the systems. So it's all about um, how these tools can help my day to day get easier and like use less human resources, more like onboard these tools and sleep in peace at night.
So I guess, Esmira, going on from the conferences and the more the actual Cast AI tool, so you've got a big thing for FinOps. Is that fair to say?
Uh, yes. Uh, 1 second. Let's stop here for a second.
That's okay.
Yeah. Um, give me 1 second, please.
Do you want me to re-ask you the question as well?
So, uh, can you tell me what about FinOps? Because we are just getting into FinOps topic,
Oh,
and I'm
really?
leading the initiative of actually uh, of teaching our teams how
Nice.
to be more active on FinOps, all of that stuff. So, what do you exactly would like to know
So
about?
so I'll tell you before we go ahead. So what I'm going to do is pretty much just ask you around your thoughts on FinOps, how it can be utilized in a real world environment, benefits of FinOps that people don't know about. Just it'll be just generic questions around FinOps, I would say, and just your opinions and thoughts around it. And maybe how companies can really implement it in their companies. As Cast AI did for your last company, that's a really good example of reducing cloud costs by 40%. Um, it's just, yeah, it'll be different bits around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Mhm. Okay.
I can always edit stuff out, by the way, so it's not a problem. I can always edit stuff or, yeah, it's not, that's
Right.
not, should I ask again?
Yeah.
Perfect. So as Mira, I guess when it comes to FinOps then, obviously you work for a company now where they do operate in that space, if that's fair to say. What are your thoughts on FinOps and how has it evolved in the last 5, 10 years?
I think FinOps is becoming one of the most important topics in engineering world, as companies started building teams and building resources. The cost was always left to as a technical debt to look at later. But as leadership starts noticing the cost going out of control, I think when it comes to FinOps, people shouldn't think about it as just another tool or another system. It's all about engineering decisions, what kind of architecture you build, and how you build things early on to avoid these cost spikes. And when it comes to Cast AI, we do actively participate in FinOps community, and we do now. We're getting into more educating engineers on how to build systems in a right way. That, as I mentioned, cost doesn't become a huge pain point moving on. So now being in more of like DevRel position, I also see that that culture matters a lot too. Um, when it comes to engineering teams, like um, blaming and hiding these things early on, it doesn't help. It's more of like framed um, how you're learning through it, and how engineering teams get engaged in decision making early on, how to build systems that you know the cost doesn't um, become another technical debt in the future. So
It's a
coming
big topic, isn't it? I think a lot of the time it is, FinOps is a bit of a buzzword, like DevOps is in a way, like, but it's pretty much like the cost of cloud, right? It's like, what are the
exactly.
costs involved in implementing things like Kubernetes and all these other tools, and how can we reduce that reliably and securely as well? Is security a big part of FinOps as well in that respect? So do you have to look at that,
Um,
as well or not?
Security, yeah. SecOps, FinOps is a different topic. SecOps on its own is another part of engineering, and
Buzzword.
the engineering teams have separate SecOps engineers, just like DevOps and cloud. So security is part of it, but I wouldn't say it's a huge part of it, depending on what kind of infrastructure or what kind of architecture you're building. If it's obviously coming from space and defense industries, it's big part at those kind of industries. However, in a lot of other spaces as well. But yeah, it's separate from FinOps. And by the way, a lot of our engineers and our team members are now becoming certified FinOps engineers, which, as you mentioned, FinOps is getting quite popular, and also being able to run the webinars, educate engineers how build more like reliable and cost-effective systems. To get into that space, getting certified with FinOps helps a lot. Like you kind of understand it uh, from inside, that um, how you can help those teams.
Nice. Is it like a framework for FinOps, Esmira, or a way of doing it that you recommend for other teams, or is it very much a case by case basis?
I would say it's more like case by case basis. It's not like one whole understanding that everyone needs to implement, depending on what you're working on.
So it's like, yeah, cool, that's fair enough. So when was the sort of first time you realized FinOps was a thing? Because I think a lot of startups that we work with, Esmira, don't really consider the monetary side of what cloud actually costs companies, and that's something they can look at later. The money's fine, we've got cash flow, we've got £5 million in Series A funding. The cloud costs can be looked at next year or the year after or in 5 years. So I guess, yeah, what are your thoughts around when can it become a real problem?
In my career, I started noticing it when I moved to more of like leading position, and when I started getting involved on the business side of things more along with engineering. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was called one day and I was told that the cloud costs needs to be brought down, that's when I realized that we were building so fast, and um, uh, we didn't even, think of all these resources compiling together will become such an issue on the cost side one day. But also, as I mentioned earlier, like putting engineering teams into that toil of cutting the cloud costs, going one by one, checking the resources, trying to understand which resources being used right now, which is not, which ones need to be shut down, downgraded. So this is a lot of uh, human brain powers that I think in that scenario, like tools such as Cast or like, FinOps itself, like comes and helps teams to save
Fair
on the
play.
costs.
Who's responsible for implementing that? Is it SLT? Is it the engineers to really push the boat and tell the leadership team, like, look, this is really important. You're going to be in a bad position in a year if we keep spending this on these tools. Like, whose job is it to really say this isn't right or this is how you do it?
Depending how big the company is, but usually it's the engineering leaders who should think about it early on, because engineers, they're head down coding, building stuff. They may not, as they build, and a lot of startups, you know how it is, like they build very fast and they don't have time to turn and look back and see uh, whatever they have built, if it's fully being utilized or some resources are not needed anymore as they build. So it's mostly engineering leaders, I would say. DevOps managers, infrastructure leaders, those people should notice it
I
earlier
don't
as
actually think that you, as an engineer, when you're more hands-on and maybe like mid-level or even junior, even some seniors that don't have that level of responsibility to actually make decisions. I don't think it's their job necessarily to really think about these things, and the actual impact of that, the tools they choose or how much they use certain tools is actually having on the company. Like, I think impact is quite a big word that I would use for this type of thing. Um,
That's
but it's
right.
not really their job, is it, to think about that? They're there to sort of like do the work, and then I think the leading, yeah, it's a collective thing, but I think certain responsibilities are there for those that are maybe in more higher positions, generally speaking.
Yeah, for sure. More higher positions and also higher leadership, as they look, the finance team, as they look at the cloud bill. Of course, they will notice one day that it
And
was
they're
this
sweating they're like this. Oh no.
amount, right?
Nice. Okay. Um, I want to speak about collaboration, Esmira, because I think collaboration is a massive part of what DevOps actually is in our space. We both work within in different angles, shall we say. You're more sort of technical and engineering focused. I'm more recruitment on a day job, and then more community focused as well, as you also are. Um,
Right.
what does healthy collaboration look like for you in this space?
In this space, actually, collaboration and working across the teams, working together with the teams and with the community is a huge part of it. And in every relationship, healthy one is like communicating things clearly. um but like people, specifically at DevRel positions, they have to be very good communicators and actually connectors, because you work on day to day, we're working with engineering, product, uh, and like higher leadership, uh, let's say, and then plus community. So what happens, attending all these conferences, all community meetups, you speak to your peers, which are engineers, and then you understand their pain points and you bring it back to your team, and you have to be able to understand it on more of technical level, and also translate that into the language your product team understands, and higher leadership, and kind of help them solve these problems. So clear communication is a key for sure.
Good. No, fair play. I think even like when I speak to graduates as mirror that want to get into this space, I always say that if you can actually communicate effectively,
Mhm.
that's one big part of becoming a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer or a SRE or a platform engineer. If you've got that skill already in abundance, then you're gonna have a good chance to do well. Obviously, the technical stuff is, have to have that skill as well. But I think more so the ability to actually problem solve and learn new skills quickly is an underrated skill as well. Some people just aren't cut out for learning things quickly in this space. Is I'm not cut out for it. I've tried as Mira to be a DevOps engineer for like 6, 7, 8 years. I've tried to learn Python, Bash, Terraform, and I understand little bits and bobs conceptually, but in terms of the actual coding, it's just
Hmm.
there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, I
Um,
spoke earlier more about DevRel, like, and being able to communicate across the teams. But when it comes to DevOps, y- uh, as the name itself defines, you're between developers and operations. So what does DevOps do? Combine these two together and just help the process to move faster, let's say. So in my previous DevOps roles, we treated our developers like our other engineers, other team members we worked with as customers. So they were our customers. If they send a ticket for DevOps to resolve, let's say they're building something and it ran out of CPU or memory, for example. So they treating them like your customers, even within the company, within the team, helped a lot. And clear communication again comes like very helpful if you know how to ask right questions to kind of understand those people's requests clearly. Also, you spoke about younger engineers. Like in the world of DevOps itself is a fairly new concept, right? It didn't exist for 50 years out there. So earlier in my career, I would feel very, how to say, like demotivated and very even ashamed when I didn't know things. But as I moved on, I don't know who said it, but there's a very good saying that nobody knows everything. So in the engineering world, that is very, very common thing that there are a lot of new things that nobody knows. But your job as an engineer, especially DevOps engineer, is to go figure it out. Um, 10 years ago, there wasn't even all these GPTs and AI to ask. So what we were doing, just going, reading all these Reddit threads and just whenever you are given a problem that you need to solve, but you don't know how to solve it, giving up is not an option. Not knowing is okay, but like not trying to solve it. Yes, will you do mistakes? Will you break things? Yes, you will. But that's how you learn, because in this world, in this DevOps world, um, and I also led DevOps teams, I know one thing for sure: there's no one who knows everything. But the main thing is being able to like those problem solving skills. Sorry, I go a little bit
No,
longer.
don't be silly. I'm enjoying it. Good
I
insights.
I've built different DevOps teams also. At one company, we had a very robust DevOps team, but like we also, which was focused mainly on building stuff, but we also needed, as we were building, sometimes things would go down and things wouldn't work properly. We also needed a support team. So when I started hiring engineers to these support roles, I did not look at their background and I did not look for uh, computer science degrees. What I looked at, I actually hired their really smart people with during the interview, I could identify if they're fast learners and problem solvers right off the boot camps. Uh, but if, as I said, not knowing is okay, but are they fast learners? Are they able to spend some time and spend some, let's say, brain juice and like figuring out
Find
how
the
to solve
solution, right?
problems? Yes, finding the solution. And that team later on became our SRE team, believe it or not. They were just support team, like when we had a clear run books where as engineers build stuff, they put the information, how if things break, how to fix it quickly. But moving forward, because they had this skill of going, looking, searching, finding a solution, they became SREs within a year. So that is very, very important.
Clearly very passionate, Esmira, about what you do, which I really like, because I think without passion in your career, there's not really any enjoyment in it. So the fact that you're like so passionate about clearly what the area you work within is a really important thing. And I think that's without passion as well, I think it's actually hard to get to the top in your field of whatever you do in work. So I think a lot of the junior engineers, problem solving, number one, I think is really important. Fast learner, definitely as well. I wanted to ask you, How do you mentioned about when you were hiring about, you identified who were the fast learners, who were the problem solvers. How did you identify that? Did you have a test that you recommend people to do if they're hiring for people? How did you assess that?
Very easy. I just gave them some problems, and during the interview, they needed like hands-on, go figure out, solve it. Yes, we did have a special test depending on, which companies. For example, let's say if it was something related to space, and if we're hiring more to DevOps team and what they're building, I came up with specific problems that actually we face day to day. So I gave them RAM book, but there was one little piece of information, let's say, missing in that RAM book, and they had to, before escalating it to engineers, they had to figure it out. So there are a lot of ways to test it, but if people are uh, passion, as you mentioned, is very, very important. If you're passionate about what you're doing, then there's a very little chance of, if the problem comes, you will give up and like throw it into another person, saying that I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
all this. You should first run out of all of your options before escalating it to, to your senior engineers.
Nice. Fair play. I guess as well when it comes to skills developing, and different trends, and AI is now one thing, Kubernetes is never gonna go away from the looks of it. It's still very much a topic that's hot in discussion every year, every month, every week, every day. Um, what skills do you think are worth developing now for engineers at all levels, whether that be seniors, leaders, mid-level engineers, junior engineers? What are the skills, soft skills as well as hard skills in terms of the toolings that you'd recommend using? Which skills would you recommend learning and developing?
Of course, especially in our world, in the world of engineering, constantly learning is a key. Like you cannot just graduate from computer science and um, think that you already know everything and you can just, stop. All engineers, they're lifetime learners. All the time they learn a lot of new things. I know a lot of my colleagues from DevOps world, they're more shifting now into MLOps from DevOps because AI becoming more popular. And I would actually tell to these younger engineers who just graduated, you probably hear a lot of rumors that AI is coming, it's going to take your job. Do not believe to these rumors. It will not. It's just making your job easier
Easier. Yeah.
if you follow the trends in emerging technologies, if you know where things are shifting, if you follow these, industry news, and then depending on where your passion is, as I said, a lot of DevOps people are transforming into more being MLOps, but some of them are going more into learning Python deeper, that they will be able to build AI themselves or like different just development skills and coding languages. So I would just say find your passion. Is it, do you want to be on more on the building stuff side, or are you good at leading those engineers, or just find your passion and follow it. And there are plenty of resources now to learn what you want to learn, and just constantly learning. Also, I know maybe it's a little bit old school thing now, going for certifications, but nowadays, with the span of attention of Gen Z and other,
3-second rule.
yes, going for certification at your job interview, the certificates you have, especially in the United States, it doesn't mean a huge thing, but for yourself, when you put that commitment in front of you that
Effort, right?
I'm
Yeah.
getting it to learn Kubernetes and became a certified Kubernetes administrator, that whole journey of learning how to become one, that helps a lot. Yeah, you can work hands-on and assume that, Kubernetes. When I got certified with AWS, it's interesting that I moved to different companies, and at different companies, like they were using different resources of AWS. Like one company might use, and then I was informed about. I didn't have a lot of hands-on experience, but I knew about all of these services just because I did certification for AWS Solutions Architect. Also, as you know, there are different clouds, right? AWS, GCP, Azure. Once I proficient my skills and I knew everything about AWS, one company I started, they were using GCP. And then I freaked out a little bit because I had zero experience with it. But as I got into it, I saw that it's just the name of the cloud is different and the name of the resources are different. But like a lot of services, a lot of technology is pretty much the same. It's just the name is different. So constantly learning, exploring new things. And earlier in their careers, I would definitely recommend going for these certifications, doing courses, because right now concentration is a key for you to be able actually to concentrate, make that commitment for a couple months to receive that certificate and achieve it. As I said, certificate doesn't mean a lot, but for your learning journey, it helps.
Nice. I like it. I guess when it comes to regrets, Esmira, bit of a not a negative question, I guess. I think regrets can be different things. Is there any regrets you have in your DevOps and DevRel journey? Anything you didn't do that you wish you'd done, or it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Oh yeah, there are so many of them. Uh, being a DevOps means dealing with a lot of problems. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there were times when I broke things, when things didn't go so well. I can give so many examples. Maybe one example, I was very bad at like distributing the workload when I just became a DevOps manager.
Okay.
So um, and I was trying to do, because, you know, when you're individual contributor and then all of a sudden you're moved to managing teams, it's hard
Different.
to
Yeah.
get used to it right away. So every big project, big, we call them epics, like epic would come like and then you divide it into tickets. I would try to do the whole thing, like I would build advanced roadmaps and try to do everything myself. But then as the uh, time passed, and as I started having my one-on-ones and knowing my engineers better and exploring their unique skills, I think I got better on that, like knowing who can do what the best and distributing. But like earlier, yeah, in my DevOps leadership positions, I did not do distribution workload very well.
Is that trust as well? Is that getting familiar with your team and actually having faith in them to do stuff that maybe you're used to doing all of it, right? Because you wouldn't have been a manager unless you could do all the things they were doing. So I'm guessing you must be good at each, each individual area that they would probably able to do individually. Was it like a trust element where like they needed to prove to you that they could do those individual elements of what you were doing?
No, I think it was more of like that responsibility element, that before I was responsible for one piece of work, now I'm put into position, I'm responsible for the whole team. And then that fear of if someone fails or doesn't do things fast, or block other team members, we're not going to be able to move fast. And like because I was seeing myself as the whole team, I guess. And that was a big time burnout, by the way.
Really?
And yes, imagine like before you were doing like, let's say, 4 tickets per sprint. Now you have to have an eye on everything and try to move everything along. It was a huge burnout. And then by the time I realized that now I know my team very well, I know how to distribute the workload. I already was at that point of burnout. But
I
yeah,
always have these. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mira. Carry on.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So I didn't mean to cut you off there, Mira. What were you
No,
saying?
no, I was saying that it's actually a lot of things uh, that I wish I would do. different or better. But yeah, one of the things also, I guess, at some teams I was moved to a leadership position very early in my career. At one company, I started like 2 months as an engineer, and then right away I was moved to leading a team position. And then I didn't know my team very well. There were people who worked there for 6, 7, 10 years, and all of a sudden I came as their peer and became the engineer. I wish I would speak up and say that, hey, I want to stay 6 more months on this IC position, and then kind of explore, know the company better, know the team better, and then. But yeah, there are a lot of
Wow.
times when I wish I would do things different. And a lot of it did bring to burnout, as I mentioned earlier.
I find it really intriguing that you said about you wish you stayed in your IC position longer when you joined a new company, because I if I was like a DevOps engineer and I've been there for 6, 7 years and I hadn't had a promotion or like a, pay increase or whatever it was, and then somebody else new came in and they got one in like 3 months, I'm not sure how I would take it. Was there any friction there in terms of could you tell those people that were maybe jealous of you or didn't want you to do well in the position because they wanted it? Was there any of that politics happening?
Oh, for sure, yes. At one of my positions, I had a guy in my team who was uh, a PhD of computer science from Stanford.
Oh, wow.
And it's
Okay.
been the company for a while. And actually, I did ask this to our the platform leader, that why me? I just joined the company. There are literally like guys who have been here for a longer time, and very very knowledge wise, like very mature in their career and knowing company better. There was one comment that I will never forget. So he said that Esmira, I cannot put the chef into a position where he has to manage the restaurant because I need him in the kitchen. And after that answer, I realized that he probably needs more of a person, not with deep technical knowledge and robust engineering, skills, but he needs more someone who can communicate with the team well and who
Yeah.
can move projects forward, rather than, because as you know, in the world of engineering, a lot of engineers are just, they don't like to be talk. They like head down coding, and they don't
Yeah,
want
well,
to communicate with a lot of people. And that answer, yeah, I remembered very well, that he said, I cannot put my chef into managing the restaurant position because I need him in the kitchen.
wow.
So
Fair
yes, there
fair
was
enough.
some frictions, but then I think I'm more of like people's person. That ability of communicating, again, it's such a key. Communicating well and showing them that I'm not here to take over anything they're doing. I'm just here to help them move things forward, creating a bigger vision. As I said, advanced roadmaps, and like helping them to move it along, and unblocking them. Let's say if their work is blocked with other team members, communicating with the other teams and unblocking them and moving things forward faster is the main goal. The goal is not like to take over anyone's space.
Fair play. I think it's really hard to go into a position and to a new company, sorry, and actually do that, and then people to not get offended and not, start throwing tantrums and having politics left, right, and centre. So you've done, I think you've made, something handled it very well, which is really, really good. I think you have to, what I love about working in this space with like engineers that are technical, obviously like DevOps engineers and stuff, is how the personality scale is like from there to there. There's so many different characters in this space. Like there's people that love to have a pint and love football and, play sports and that sort of thing. And then you have other, boys and girls that enjoy just being on their own and not communicating verbally, but they enjoy communicating on their laptops. And there's every bit in between of that. I think that make everyone's so unique and different. So I think that just really makes me, as someone that works and helps these people to get into new jobs, I find that really exciting that I can speak to new people every day that are different and no one's the same. But it does also mean that some companies and some teams aren't right for individuals, and some individuals aren't right for teams. How have you found that in terms of retention? So when you're an engineering leader, how have you found that in terms of keeping people around that maybe aren't good for the team, morale and aren't a good fit? And how have you gone around maybe moving people on that weren't good enough, or you went in there and they were already there and they just weren't contributing positively?
Sorry, it was a little bit cutting off. Can you please
Ah,
just repeat the last part of the question?
yeah, yeah, sure. So I guess how would you go about, how have you gone about moving people on that maybe aren't contributing positively to projects and to teams? Because not everybody fits teams, and not every team fits individuals.
100%. Yes, I have been through that a lot. And in that sense, as a manager, it's very important not missing your one-on-ones and getting to know these people better. There were times when I noticed someone who has been doing okay, but there's a period of time they just weren't performing very well. They were just siloed. They were just, locked. And then it was so important having these one-on-ones with them and understanding what's going on. Sometimes it was just a small family issue or like something personal that person was going through. And, it didn't mean that that this whole thing is affecting that person's whole performance. And sometimes, of course, there are these cases when a person is not just fit for the team or company. Most companies I worked at, we could move people around without letting them go, and giving them those opportunities to kind of speak out and tell us where they would feel safer and more comfortable. I was able to actually do that in my past career, like kind of moving people around from different teams. Like, for example, we had someone from support ops team that specific engineer was thinking that they're already pretty advanced in their career. They don't want to be part of support team. They want to move to more of like DevOps engineer role. Or actually vice versa. Someone we promoted to be, or we hired as a DevOps, but they were more fit to that younger, let's say, engineering team, which was support ops, and they upscaled a little bit their skills and moved to there. So, as I said, like understanding people, talking to them, and understanding their unique skills. Also, when a huge project comes, you can't just throw those tickets or distribute this workload um, just without knowing your team's skill set very well. If because let's say someone is better at building and someone is better at handling the downtimes, if you switch the roles, of course they're not going to perform well. So knowing each individual's unique skill sets and how you know that through your one-on-ones, through that, the time you spent with your team and looking at their past performance. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's good. No, no, that's really good. I think, yeah, it just goes back once again to everybody in engineering is so different. And even if they may seem similar, they're probably not that similar. And everyone is different, but certain people do fit teams better than others. And that's why hiring is the way it is. That's why that companies take sometimes the first person that interviews gets the job, sometimes takes 20 people. It's just one of those things, really. I think, Esmir, I've asked you pretty much everything that I wanted to ask you, to be honest. I've got a really good insight into you, who you are, what you've done, your thoughts, and your opinions on certain things as well. Where can people follow you?
They can follow me on LinkedIn. That's, I think, the platform I'm the most active. And now, as we're building the community around Cast AI, they can also join our Slack channel, Cast AI community, and that's where I post most of my like our events that we're attending, where we're speaking, and all of that. But LinkedIn would be the perfect resource.
Sounds good. Esmira, can you drop me that Slack channel and I'll put it into the YouTube video? That'd be
Of
amazing.
course. Yes.
That'd be great. Awesome. And also, do you have any questions for me at all before we close off?
Um, I well, one question I would have, you're also building a community like I do, DevOps community. What is your challenge in right now, like at your current stage, like building this DevOps community? Is there any challenge? And maybe I can help with something.
Great
That's the main
question.
purpose of asking this, like to know your challenge right now.
Great question. So yeah, so I think with DevOps Society, the biggest challenge has been getting access to venues. That can be quite challenging. You've actually already helped me with that today. So thank you for that. I think that's one thing. We do meetups in the UK at the moment. We're looking to scale that globally this year, as I think I mentioned to you on our call last week. Um, so yeah, venue, I appreciate obviously venues aren't easy to come by and companies are very protective over the security element of their buildings. And I totally get it. But any venues would be amazing. And I think for us to really grow this to a level where we can make a global impact to millions of people as opposed to thousands, I think partnerships is a big thing this year that I'm looking to try and implement. So that doesn't mean company gives us this amount of money and we use that to do stuff. It's a long term two-way partnership where we can actually make a difference for the company and increase their brand visibility and their brand awareness and get our engineers engaged with their products too, as well as them supporting us in our journey as well and increasing our audience. So it's a very much a two-way street. So I would say venues, we're always looking out for speakers. So that's one thing. So if you want to speak, Esmira, at an event, let me know. I'd love to have you speak. Um, and yeah, I think I'm just trying to do things for the engineers to really look at content and be inspired by it. And we've got content creators now as well, so like YouTubers in the space. Like Canal would be amazing, but he's very famous, so maybe not. Um, but people that have 100 subscribers on YouTube, I want to help them to grow their audience. And if they want to go full time with YouTube, let's see if we can support them with getting 10,000 subscribers in a year, and vice versa. They can send us videos for our community. So there's loads of stuff that I want to do, but there's lots of challenges that come with scaling a meetup group, as you know. So does that answer your question? I hope.
It does. It does. I think the problem with engineers, especially in US, it's that they are very conscious of their time. They are
Yes.
very like careful of what they spend their time on, and as long as you bring the value to the
Yeah.
community, as long as they see the value, they can take something from this community and or help someone. So in that case, you can build a bigger and more like robust communities in DevOps, in SRE, and anything related to cloud. But yeah, speaking engagements would be great, I think, for engineer. A lot of them love doing it. Um, just telling the community what they're working on, what they're building, how it can help others. Yeah.
I think
Well,
it
great.
brings a
Yes,
lot of
that does answer my.
thank you. It brings a lot of synergy, I think, for other engineers to see other engineers at their level speak in front of an audience. That's a massive achievement. I mean, Esmira, to be honest with you, like even though I run a meetup community, I really struggle to speak in front of large crowds, as I think I told you last week. So I'm trying to push the boat out, but it doesn't come naturally to me. I would say my personality is probably more like a typical engineer's personality. I don't go out much. Sounds a bit sad. I don't go out much aside from work, traveling, and that sort of stuff. I like to be in my house, and I make music, for example. I do music production and this sort of stuff in my home studio. So I think, yeah, we're
Nice.
trying. We're trying to do some good stuff, which is the main thing. Um, and I think you obviously have been involved in meetup groups as well. Is there any recommendations in terms of what engineers should look for in the community, generally speaking?
If it's a community meetup, as I said, they're looking for the value. If it should never be heavily like vendor involvement, but it's more of like if you're talking about cost as a problem, some an engineer who can come and talk about how to build things right earlier in their uh, uh, career, or like earlier in building the infrastructure, that it doesn't become a pain point. Like overall, it's like what value did this engineer's time is spent on, like what did they learn today, what new connection they made, or like how is it gonna help them in the future at their day-to-day work, or in their career. So
I like it.
if
No,
you
I like it. That's given me something to think about in terms of how it could add more value to people per video, per meetup, per everything. So that's given me some good perspective. So thanks for that, Esmira. It's been great having you on, Esmira. Thanks for your time as well. I know your time is also very valuable too. So um, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and it's a bit different doing a podcast as you know now. So um, hope you've enjoyed
thank,
it, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, and great questions, by the way. I
Oh, thank
loved
you. I
answering
tried.
them.
No
Thank
worries.
you so much.